public? You're fine if you're here for someone. Okay. All right, and we're ready to go. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Beverly H. Burks, and this is the Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 work session at 7 p.m. At this time, I will do roll call. Vice Mayor is out today. Councilwoman Bell.
Present.
Councilman Perkins.
Present.
Councilwoman Adee.
Present.
Councilman Moore.
Present.
And Councilwoman Bayonne.
Present.
And I'll recognize our city manager, Shaquia Millithorne.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any updates to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda with common consent. There is no public hearing, but there is number 4, presentation administrative business. A, Parks and Recreation Department Master Plan Vision Workshop presentation. City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. I'll defer to our Parks and Rec consultant.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think we gave you about 12 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to try to stick to that.
Okay.
And as always, we have a little more information to share than time, but I'm going to move through these slides quickly. And this is a very high-level overview of what we've been up to since the last time I was here. So, each of the elements we're presenting today will be accompanied by a lot more supporting details, policies, action steps, and case studies in the final plan. Next slide, please.
We won't count this against your time.
Thank you. Every second counts. This is just a rundown of what we're going to cover. Go back over the project purpose, approach, the findings from those first 2 phases, and then we'll touch on the draft vision and next steps. Next slide, please. As you know, what we're creating is a guiding document for the future development and redevelopment of the community's park system over the next 10 years and beyond. This is a roadmap for ensuring equitable proximity and connections to parks and the recreation system. We're really in this third bullet. The vision phase is a system-wide approach to developing goals, policies, and guidelines. And then lastly, in the implementation strategy, we'll prioritize everything based on the current and future funding scenarios. Next slide, please. Our approach is this five-step strategic planning process. We are now in the vision. So it looks like we're in the middle, but really the first 2 phases are the bulk of the work, so we're well towards the end. As we wrap up this vision and the implementation plan over the next month, we'll be back before you, hopefully at the end of next month, to present the final plan. Next slide, please. Just again on the public engagement highlights, you've seen this before, but I was able to go out to the Refuge Coffee event a few weeks ago, and that was a great opportunity to share a few of these items with the public, and we got some great feedback and a little more detail about some of the programming questions we'd asked previously. Next slide, please. All right, and so based on everything we learned over the last 6 months and those first 2 phases, next slide, please. We really could summarize everything under 3 concepts, 3 themes, which were that the system needs to be upgraded, upgrade the existing things that you have, expand into new parks and programming, and then lastly, to better connect residents to the Parks and Recreation system, both through improved connections, physical infrastructure, and then also through marketing and outreach. And these 3 concepts was really what we used as we moved into the vision workshop. Next slide, please. So back on March 24th, we met with Director Duncan and city staff, including the city manager, to discuss how we take everything we learned in the first 2 phases and move it into this vision framework. So we discussed the mission, the department's mission, vision, goals, and objectives, which are the things we'll cover today, and then we've been developing those actions and steps, which you'll see when you get the final plan. Next slide, please. So the mission statement that we developed in that workshop for the new mission for the department is creating a safe and inclusive community for a better quality of life for all. And then the vision statement, which we're still ironing out, we settled on two alternatives. The first is providing vibrant spaces to build community with activities and amenities that lead to a healthier, more engaged public. And the second option was serving the community with excellence by providing experiences that create memories that last for a lifetime in the city of Clarkston. So both great options, and we're still working with Michael and the other staff to make sure that we get that exactly right. Next slide, please. So you'll recognize those three themes: connect, upgrade, and expand in these goals, but we also added two additional goals, and we really believe now we have a great kind of linear progression that starts with the first goal of serving the community through a responsive, modern, accessible department. That leads into the second goal of connecting the community to the parks and recreation system through, again, improved physical connections and effective outreach, upgrading the parks, recreation facilities, and indoor spaces, and then expanding parkland facilities, programs, and indoor spaces, and then lastly, sustaining the system through comprehensive strategies for management, maintenance, and funding. So it's really intended to serve as it's linear progression, building from that first goal of, ultimately serving the community as well as possible. Next slide, please. So now I'm just going to briefly touch on the initial objectives that we established for each of these goals. And then, as I was saying, beneath each of these objectives, there will be additional actions and steps. So this is really just the highest level. And again, this is all still in progress. So, as you continue to review this, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections. But under this first goal of serving the community, we have things categorized. The first category is administration and staffing, and the first two objectives are to formalize the organizational structure of the Parks and Recreation Department to improve service delivery, and then to develop the Clarkston way for customer experience, which really just means understanding, based on your unique demographics and the needs of this community, how you can best serve your residents. And we have that little quote on the side, just to remind you that Parks and Recreation services are really the only services provided by the city where residents choose to spend their disposable income, which is why we believe it's so important to develop a really strong customer service experience. The next category is maintenance, and the third objective is to optimize maintenance practices to ensure high-quality maintenance across the board with limited resources. And then lastly, safety. The fourth objective is to collaboratively enhance the safety and security of parks and recreation facilities. Next slide, please. So under the second goal of connecting the community, the first category is marketing and outreach. And as I've been saying, we believe that there's an opportunity to improve marketing and outreach to inform residents about the programs and park facilities, and then to develop a strategy for ongoing community input. So to ensure that all the input that we've collected through this plan, we continue those practices to ensure that we're staying up to date on residents' needs as the community changes. And then the second category is pedestrian and bicycle improvements. So that third objective is to enhance multimodal accessibility to parks, including through micromobility and transit. And we know the city is well on its way to doing this with the advancement of the Clarkston Greenway, streetscape improvements you've been doing for years, and other efforts to continue to improve accessibility across the city. Next slide, please. The third goal is to upgrade the parks, everything that you have. And so that first category of parks and facilities focuses on, first objective is developing a Clarkston Parks Design Standards to reinforce the city's brand identity. That's really just about having standard elements of the design based on best practices and things that already exist in the park, like the great work in Trailside Green with the stonework and the railings and everything, and ensuring that all the parks have that same quality of and elements of design. Second objective is to complete capital improvements in the parks in collaboration with the community to provide high-quality park experiences across the board. So within that objective, we've already developed a long list of individual park improvements. And then in the third objective, completing capital improvements to the Women's Club in collaboration with the community to ensure multi-purpose uses are maximized. So again, we've developed a list of a number of actions that can be taken to ensure that the Women's Club is serving as many uses as possible. And then the next category is natural areas. And we have an objective around performing specialized ecological restoration in natural areas And that's really just based on best practices in our field, but also the understanding that natural areas and nature parks were the highest category need based on what we heard from your residents. So we want to ensure that those spaces are ecologically healthy and thriving. Next slide, please. Under the fourth goal of expanding parkland facilities and programs in indoor spaces, that first category is parkland. So we want to achieve equitable access to parks and increase the city's total parkland through a creative multi-pronged strategy. And this really involves building on a lot of the previous planning work that has identified a number of spaces that could be future green space in the city. We know that there's really limited opportunities, so I think that's where the creative and multi-pronged strategy comes in, because we know that there really just are very few opportunities for additional acquisitions. The second category is facilities, so we want to provide new parks and recreation facilities equitably throughout the city. We know there's a few amenities such as basketball courts, bike infrastructure, a few things that could be expanded throughout the city to ensure that they're being provided equitably. And then, of course, under programs, we want to develop new programming to serve the priorities that we've heard from residents. And lastly, to pursue the long-range creation of an indoor recreation center. Based on that vision workshop, we know that this is a really costly endeavor, so we want to keep it as an objective, but think about how we can ensure that that's something that we're building towards in a long-range way. Last goal. Next slide, please. And this goal is about sustaining the system. So the first category is funding, and it's really just about exploring all possible strategies to increase funding both for capital projects and for operations. And again, we'll be providing a number of resources related to grants and other strategies where funding is concerned. Collaboration. We believe strongly in fostering strategic partnerships. We have a little note up there about Park Pride. They're already working with a number of other parks nearby in DeKalb and surrounding communities like Scottsdale. So I think there's a great opportunity there to start fostering those partnerships, as well as with the school board and the county. And then lastly, with stormwater management, that's just another area where through green stormwater infrastructure, cities can really achieve multiple benefits by both creating parks and green spaces and then stormwater benefits. Okay, and then the next thing we wanted to show you is two visions for Milam Park and 40 Oaks. A couple of notes I want to say about those. Again, these are just really a starting point for discussion. You can go to the next slide. There will be much more refined design and public review before anything would be implemented. And then a few things I can note about them, and I know it's a little hard to see, but hopefully you'll have some time to review these. In general, there's a lot of commonalities between these two options. It's really about reorganizing to build on what's already working in Milam Park, but really maximizing spaces to increase programming. One of the biggest things is building a much more robust network of ADA accessible walking paths to connect all the elements of the park, and the inclusion of the previously planned snap finger path, that shared use path that would stretch across 40 Oaks and then down through Milam to connect Stone Mountain Path to these two parks and then the communities to the southeast. Expanding and redesigning the parking areas to maximize parking. Improving the fields by providing artificial turf on the newly lighted soccer field, and also potentially on the infield of the baseball field. A new basketball, volleyball, and dedicated pickleball courts, which is really just about expanding on the active core of the park that currently exists. Maintaining a focus on those easily accessible pavilions that are so popular for gatherings, and then activating the Norman Road frontage with a boardwalk along the lake and a new path connection to Jolly Elementary School. And then just a couple of differences I can touch on. And you can switch to option B, kind of switch back and forth every few seconds. Option A, as you can see, shifts a few elements to 40 Oaks, including the dog park and an expanded playground, and it maintains a smaller playground in Milam. Just to be very clear, we're not advocating for any tree removal, but we believe these elements could be integrated into 40 Oaks in a natural, elegant, and ecologically sensitive way, specifically a play area and the dog park. And it's really about maximizing youth sports opportunities with those upgraded fields and the additional field space with those 4 fields that are sized for U8 soccer. As you can see here on option B, this one, if you notice in the bottom left, what we're showing is the community center space on the DeKalb School Board property. So this one is really about focused on rekindling that partnership with the DeKalb School Board to reactivate that community center land. And by doing that, we'd be able to free up just a little of the space in Milam and not have to squeeze everything in quite so closely. So you'd also, be able to not necessarily have the playground in 40 Oaks, but potentially just the dog park, and then everything else that we described in option A is also here in option B, just a little more spaced out. But really, we think it's a great opportunity, hopefully, to re-engage with the DeKalb School Board and reactivate that space on the community center property, which we know has served the community well in the past. And that's all we had. Well, I guess, let me just touch on our next steps. I think, am I at 12 minutes?
You're okay.
Okay,
You're
good.
okay.
Next slide, please. Next slide. So, like I said, we are continuing to refine this vision. We'll be sharing it with Director Duncan in the next week, and then we'll work with him to make any revisions, and I would assume he'll share it with you, and would love to hear any feedback we get from this group. And then we're hoping to be back in front of you in about a month, and we'll be ready to present that final full report.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there's only one piece. Normally, or what's happened in the past was the
Yeah.
area that you identified as the activity field has been that partnership with the Clarkston Community Center and not necessarily us. So I think how we tackle that is going to be very important, especially if the expectation is more of the playground areas over there. We need to make sure that expectations and what's already happening is clear.
Absolutely. And you're referring just to the community center property?
Right.
Right.
It's the DeKalb school system.
Right, are the owners.
Currently, they are allowing them to partner and use the building. They initially also did the activity field as well. So I'm not sure in terms of contract discussion where they are with the field. But I think that piece from a staff perspective needs to be clear, because if you're setting expectations, but the community center is still going to operate that part, then we need to make sure what we do from our plans going forward, that is clear.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, any questions? Oh, Councilman Moore.
We did a water study. Maybe Larry remembers when we did that water study. I can't remember the woman's name who had an environmental company. That
Oh, put
was-
your mic on.
What's that?
Is it on?
Oh,
Are you on?
yeah.
There you are. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'll speak into the mic. 2012, 2014, somewhere in that period, we did a water study, and there was a high level of E. coli downstream from Milam Park, and the dog, the dog play yard. I'd like to. I see you've eliminated it from Milam Park and the Armistead Field area. I'd like to eliminate it from the 40 Oaks and try to preserve 40 Oaks Nature Preserve as a nature preserve, and that dog park is right there on top of that stream that is fed by a spring, and we're finding several springs around the community. But I'd like to move a dog park inland somewhere, or put it on the responsibility of the multifamily units. I drove through Park 1000 Phase 2, where they're doing a lot of nice renovation. They also have a nice dog enclosure, dog park over there, which is like the worst place that we've had in the city for a long time. So seeing that kind of improvement, I'd like to encourage all the apartment complexes, because it's really a place for somebody to take their dog, let it get some exercise, whereas people around 40 Oaks and Milam Park have yards, have houses, have areas to walk, and so I just want to try to eliminate that from this type of thing where it's a responsibility of the city, plus it becomes a responsibility of the city to clean up after the people that don't clean up after their dogs. So I'm trying to consider the cost as far as our labor goes in trying to maintain something like that. So, yeah, I'd like to have that taken out of the 40 Oaks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a great comment.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Oh, yes. Councilman.
I just wanted to mention that years ago, the DeKalb County School Board expressed interest in giving that property to the city.
Okay.
So maybe if we had a plan to show them,
Yep.
they might pick up that oar again.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the reminder. Okay. Anything else? Councilman
Question.
Perkins?
Thank you. I think in some of the earlier discussions, we've talked about expanding either the pool complex or putting a splash pad in. I think we've now allocated SPOS funding for that. Is that a part of this plan, or kind of where did the discussion go on that? Was it just not community input, or?
Well, no, we will be showing splash pad, a vision for a splash pad.
Okay. Are you seeing it as a part of the pool?
I think we're going to
existing pool complex,
consider
or-
a few options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I just didn't see it specifically in the plan, so.
Right.
Okay. Do you have more to add on it, or?
No.
Okay.
All right. With that, thank you so much for the update.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. We'll move on to public comments, and so any member of the public may address questions or comments to the city council referencing only agenda items after the mayor and council have had the opportunity to discuss the agenda item. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments. And so we'll move to old business, and that is 6A, to present and discuss an ordinance to create a criminal nuisance property program that would identify criminal nuisance properties based on crime statistics and then require them to make improvements, changes to their property or the way it is managed to reduce crime. Vice Mayor is out. I'll turn this over to the city manager for comments over to the.
Yes, ma'am. We did give the city attorney and I did implement the changes that the council talked about and consented to during the last meeting. And Mr. Quinn, if you want to, you can kind of talk through those. I have the red line version, but.
Sure. Thank you, Madam City Manager. This should be pretty quick because there really wasn't much changed. So we added the expansion from city manager to city manager or designee, police chief or designee. Most of the times that those officers appeared in the document, but we left it as just the city manager in two places that seemed the most important. One was basically determining whether a corrective action plan was appropriate and then signing it ultimately, and the other was holding a meeting with the owner and or manager of the property in question. And that was section 504. In section 507, we clarified that if the city takes administrative action against a nuisance property because they're not correcting things per the plan, that's not necessarily a city manager action, but it depends on the license involved. So it might be the city clerk, it might be something that comes before the city council if it's alcohol, just to be accurate and to dovetail with the other parts of the code that are being implicated. So those are really the only two substantive changes. We found a few typos and cleaned those up. And so happy to answer any questions or discuss anything that the council wants to.
I have one more. In section 5-503, we received, we entered the top 7 languages that communications for this ordinance will be presented to the public in.
Okay.
Thank you. And that, the idea was to provide a statement in those languages along with a letter that says, if you need translation, let us know.
Okay. Any comments from the council? Thank you. And this was a second reading for this item. Councilwoman Bell.
Thank you. So while the cleanup was done for the ordinance, was it any discussion in regards to capacity for some of the components of the redraft of this second version of it, in regards to the inspections and oversight that would be required? If that's something that is plausible based off current capacity?
Right, I think so. I think we did talk about just some of those things that we kind of thought from a enforcement or administrative perspective we wouldn't be able to verify, like whether or not the property owner or manager maintain an incident log, right, and tenant communication system. So those things were stricken from the ordinance. But the what was left, we believe we're able to enforce or administer.
All right. Yes, one more.
Thanks. Stephen, so this question is for you. So I did some research on these nuisance programs and some of the legal backlash from them in regards to that. So could you share in regards to any potential violations, whether it's Fair Housing Act or any civil rights, like legal punitive actions that you may have heard about or seen based off cities that have moved forward with these type of programs?
I have not heard about those actions. My research as far as other cities was limited to using MuniCode to look up some related or similar ordinances in other Georgia cities. I have not, done a Google search to see if these had been in the news or anything like that. But if you share a little more with me, I'd be happy to investigate.
So I shared articles with you in regards to some of the backlash and some of the suits that have come for nuisance, because they claimed that they were discriminatory in action and actually caused people to be wrongfully evicted. And then also there was a reduction of crime due to the fact that people would report that this would trigger the nuisance program.
Well, I mean, I'll give an initial reaction to that. As far as causing someone to be evicted, I mean, the city's action here would only be against the property and then vicariously against the owner of that property, not the tenants. And we do have in there that the landlord can't discriminate against the tenants, but that part is a little, we may not be on our best foot there if they do, and we try to punish them. But I'll be happy to look at what you sent me and
just as a rebuttal to that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So you know that when we created the MOU with DeKalb County, that was the issue, right? That the landlord was advised that, hey, the rate should not be varying because it produces some type of hardship or undue burden on your tenants. And then that was the tenants reporting back to us that they have been discriminated against or have been forced out of the property. So I think we do need to do our due diligence and research in regards to implementing a program and the liability and how it falls upon us. Because we've had past experiences or instances that have not been favorable based off of, us trying to do what we think is right.
Right. Would you elaborate for me on what you were referencing that triggered that previously?
Well, essentially, the tenant asked for a lease, and then they were denied because they had missed a payment once or twice, right? And so we had the MOU with DeKalb County because somebody had already called me about, like, they went fixing the inside of their apartments or those things. And so as a result of it, the city went down and just like had a conversation with them, and then the lawyers from DeKalb went down. And so what happened was, as you know, the legal process takes some time. They forced them out of that. and said that basically they were, quite frankly, a nuisance, and hard to manage and hard to deal with, and so they used that. And so yes, we provide legal representation as a city. However, the time lapse and that person needed housing, and so I
Right.
just don't want things like that to trigger, because we're doing our due diligence and what we think is best for all our residents, and then it just has a negative impact on somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. But what's your MOU? That's what you,
We had an MOU. Remember the award we got about working with the DeKalb County to provide legal assistance?
okay,
That was the MOU that supported them, because we didn't have direct legal assistance that we could
Right.
provide them directly.
okay. But that's a little different than.
I think that's a little different in this way. That was what Councilmember Bell recounted was like specific to a tenant, which gives the landlord more of an opportunity to retaliate. And I'm not saying that couldn't happen under this plan, but more generally, they would be, it wouldn't be like about a tenant complaint unless it was a complaint about a crime, right?
Yeah, but if a criminal activity occurred on a property, and maybe one of the tenants was a part of it because they reside there,
Mhm.
this then could be, hey, that was a criminal activity that then caused us to go to that
Right.
property to say, hey, this is an issue, and then they could directly discriminate against that individual, or say, hey, you are associated with the criminal behavior activity that has happened. Now we're going to forcibly ask you to be removed.
Yes.
And so I think if you can give him those examples of what you have, and then that way he can and see, because even if the person did criminal activity, it's within their lease that they're not supposed to do criminal activity. So if they're guilty of doing something to break their lease, that's something we can, make sure in terms of how we structure it, then we can have the city attorney to review it.
So I'll send it to you, but
Yeah.
criminal activity and alleging that I'm associated with criminal activity are two different things.
Sure.
Anybody can make allegations that I'm associated with it, whether the person came in and knocked my door. That is what I'm trying to alleviate.
Okay, that's fair enough. Any other comments? Yes, city manager. Yes, ma'am.
So in talking with Assistant Chief and just thinking around this public safety narrative, one of the questions, and it's high level questions that we have, is has council thought about how the off-duty officer assignment narrative plays into this particular ordinance? We have off-duty officers to work in different areas around the city, and so have we kind of considered whether this will trigger additional off-duty narrative, or it will require additional on-duty narrative? And if so, one of the things we were kind of thinking around is if operationally and risk-wise, the department itself determines that off-duty assignments will not be permitted in a certain area, will this ordinance kind of trump that and say, well, we do have to provide off-duty officers in a narrative where, say, one of the properties falls, has been determined to be a nuisance, and we're not providing that additional support off-duty? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Lacey?
Okay. That's duly noted. We got to think about that one. And that's why I think Vice Mayor didn't want this to be, this is for additional comments for
Right.
these types of things, because it's nice when we put it on paper, but the implementation and those little pieces that you're talking about are important to think through. Councilman Perkins?
Yes. Yeah, so in Section 5, this is a section that Mr. Quinn referenced a second ago, 5-510, the tenant and victim protections. I think I raised this concern after our last meeting with you and the vice mayor. I think, if you look at a number of the properties where we do receive these complaints, tenants in those properties are on month-to-month leases. A lot of them. They're incredibly expensive. They're set up to be able to clear people out and flip the property, in my opinion, if needed. My concern is that, that you're kind of backing this up saying that, we're not on shaky legal ground. We could give people a false sense of security in terms of addressing this. Really, it's just going to speed up flipping those properties, which, if that's something we want to do, you can make the argument this is potentially a strategy to get there and sort of expedite cleaning some of the properties up. But this is sort of connected, I guess, to Councilwoman Bell's concerns. So I don't know if we're comfortable maybe tweaking that to make it a little more, less shaky from a legal standpoint, or maybe removing some of the language there just to make sure we don't give people a false sense of security.
Well, we could, one thing we could do if the council wanted to go in that direction would be to specify a consequence for violating what we've prohibited. And if we limit that to the administrative actions, then I think that would be a strong legal ground. So what that would look like would be denying a business license or renewing a business license. Now, the big problem there is that now everybody in the whole place can't reside there. And that's the same catch-22 that we run our heads into over and over again with these kind of situations. It's like, it's tricky. I don't really have a silver bullet there, but from a legal perspective, I think where we would have a harder time winning in court is if we tried to give them a citation and a fine. If we focused on administrative remedies, I think that would be a stronger place. But
when you say administrative remedies, are you speaking specifically to this section or just in general? Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I'm saying that the administrative remedies mean taking action against an existing license or refusing to renew a license.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about a multifamily housing development, the license that they have is a business license.
Mm-hmm.
And the consequence of not renewing it or taking it away would, unfortunately, a secondary impact would be on all the tenants, right? Mm-hmm. Because now if they don't have that license, they're not allowed to rent it out at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very much a catch-22. It's like to get on the better legal ground and to be more transparent about what our authority really is leads us to a place we don't really want to go. We could take it out altogether, which then that takes away the potential of dissuading that bad conduct.
I guess my concern is the folks who are, if we're viewing this as a property owner problem, where they're not maintaining things, sort of broken window theory or something like that. Mm-hmm. A lot of these companies they're $200, $400 million equity companies. They're pretty, I imagine they have some people who are paid a lot of money to be fairly sharp and pick up on that stuff. And so I don't know if we're going to, pull a fast one on them and hopefully, do right by our constituents just by having something that's not enforceable in there. Right. So I just want us to be clear on what it is we're trying to accomplish and, make sure that we've thought through how this can play out, whether in court or just in the big picture in terms of new development. So.
Okay, City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. Based on those comments, and legality aside, not that that doesn't matter because it definitely matters. Mm-hmm. But what I see based on your comment is say, this is hypothetical, of course, but can definitely happen. We enforce this ordinance on a property owner. A tenant who is associated with that nuisance is evicted. That tenant comes to us based on this ordinance, and I shouldn't be evicted because of this. And then we in turn say, okay, well, we have to make a determination of whether or not the eviction was associated with, enforcing this ordinance, and then make a determination of whether the license should be suspended or not renewed. To me, that puts the administration, our offices, in a place where we are trying to, for lack of a better word, litigate, I guess, between these two parties without really being able to determine whether it was actually because the tenant did something wrong or because they were discriminated against because of we have enforced this ordinance.
Yeah.
Right. We spend a lot of time, in my opinion, already trying to do that very thing with our personnel and with issues that we automatically have to take care of under our scope. And then to add something else like that to it, I think we should definitely think about this language a little bit.
Yeah. And, Councilwoman Bell pointed out very correctly that being accused of something by your landlord doesn't mean you did it. But there, surely somewhere in the city, there are tenants who are doing crimes. And so as everyone else then would be better without them there. And I agree with the city manager that that's a practically impossible. I mean, that's what courts are for, but that's not the kind of, this isn't the way that those things are come to court and get judged.
Okay.
At one point,
One more point.
yeah. So I just want to clarify too, I think there's two components to this to consider. One is the individual guilt, if there's an individual. And I think to the mayor's point, if you committed a felony or assaulted someone, 99.9% of all leases have a clause in there where you kind of lose your right to live there. And I think that's something to consider. Are we going to end up in sort of this as an arbitrator between two people, which isn't our role for at least our staff. I think the other piece though is a larger, I hate using the word retaliatory action, but just consequence of this, where if we make it too costly, it's sort of a trick. It's like, how do we hold, for lack of a better word, slumlords accountable? But then the reality is if we push people who already have the kind of character that would allow them to be slumlords to begin with too far, they're going to look at the money, and everyone else is on month-to-month leases. It could have a larger effect on more than just one individual. And so that's sort of what I'm looking at is if that's a decision we want to make, again, we may be in a catch-22 where there's no easy decision.
Right.
But we just need to be, I think, prepared to, for whatever way this could play out.
Okay. So to that point, I think it's best, city attorney, if you kind of look at the sections that we just discussed, and especially any outstanding legal issues, and then those particular sections where if it's retaliatory, not for us to necessarily be the arbitrator between the tenant and the owners as a result. Because even putting that tenant and victim protection, taking maybe that protection language out, that might be something else as we're looking at it too. Because this isn't the final vote on it, so I think we want to flush it through, right? So I don't want to feel like we gotta, tonight is tonight. Okay. Goodbye. Councilman Moore.
What I'm imagining, what we're trying to do is protect somebody who's reporting bad circumstances, and we're trying to encourage good management to maintain the property and make sure that it's safe. There's not some dark corner where somebody waits and beats people up all the time. So yeah, I think we need to clarify that to make sure that the people that do report bad circumstances don't get retaliated against, but also that some of them aren't falsely accused of being the problem.
Right. And don't forget, this isn't just for apartment, multifamily dwellings. It's for businesses as well, in terms of like shopping centers and other places like that. So, right. Okay.
Good point.
Yes. And then
So
that-
one, I want to understand, city manager, from your perspective, budgetary impact. Not one time have we been able to lower crime rates, but also have a cost saving, because we have to invest in something. And I'm thinking about personnel and just capacity as a whole. And to your point, you're already doing a lot of this to try to reduce some of these deplorable options. And then we also have the community redevelopment program that was passed a couple of years ago. Did we do any assessments on that to figure out like how these two could work in tandem together to improve those outcomes?
No, I think that's a good idea. But I also know that the special districts would be set up, right, to help cover costs for whatever action plan is associated with abating the nuisance. Is that right, Stephen?
Yes, but not necessarily, I guess, would be the right answer.
Okay.
It's definitely set up to bring money in that's spent on public safety in the same area. But this one the city doesn't take in any money to support it, and it's
Right.
property specific.
Right.
On the other one, the city does take in, and it's district specific rather than one property.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
similar but different.
Okay. So public, do we have any public? Public once, public twice? No. Okay. So thank you, and
I got one more statement. That's it too.
Okay.
Is it okay? I want to go back to the policing analogy that you gave, because I want to make sure I'm clear. So the question was, can you restate the question?
Yeah,
I mean, the
get-
statement.
And it's high
Synthesize it.
level, of course, but it's how does council see the off-duty officer assignment narrative playing out within the scope of this ordinance?
Are you asking that question in Assistant Chief? You can answer that.
Todd,
Yeah, but does he want to speak?
did you?
Okay, you don't have to speak to the chief if you want to.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to figure out the narrative is in regards to adding more work capacity to incidents that are happening in on those properties, because that would only apply to multifamily or apartment complexes, and not necessarily. And this goes to single family dwellings as well, right?
So maybe
It
maybe if you could give us an example of
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Can I try to explain first? And
Yes,
then if I just
then-
have
then-
to give a narrative?
No, that's okay.
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 So I think this is also is not just about multifamily, but it's about businesses too. So what I don't want is, or what we don't want operationally, is for there to be some form of conflict with what we believe is best operationally from a risk perspective, assigning officers off duty or on duty, well, off duty specifically, to allowing officers to work off duty capacity in an area where there is increased crime. Right? Exactly. So if we are expected to increase officer capacity in an area, right, but we have determined operationally that our officers should not work from an off-duty perspective in that particular establishment, then how does that offer a conflict between what the expectation of the body is for this ordinance and what we may think is best operationally?
But the officers don't have to come from the city, correct?
No.
Okay.
They don't.
Right. Okay.
Although, I
know.
will say this, it has been our understanding that there are particular establishments that no other jurisdiction would want to touch. And that we do need to understand that if that's the case, then we have a little bit more of a vested interest because it's in our jurisdiction. Yeah.
Appreciate that update.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that was good. Councilman Moore, and then that's it. And then, because we had the segue to Mr. Quinn gave a great segue into the districts, and I don't want to miss out on that one, okay? So go ahead.
So they have the option to hire a private security firm to do that work instead of our off-duty officers. So we could institutionally, as a city, request that they not take that work. Is that just to remove liability from us?
We could. We thought about that scenario as we were talking about this too. At the end of the day, the city's officers would still have to respond. 9 times out of 10, a security team, private security doesn't have arrest powers, right? So there is still a responsibility for us to respond to every call,
Right.
right? And
Anyway,
so-
right.
All right, well, thank you for that. And we'll move on to B, which is to present and discuss an ordinance, set up a program for special service districts to tax a designated area and then use that revenue to make improvements or provide additional services within the area that are intended to reduce crime. And City Manager, both you and City Attorney were talking about that, so take it away.
Okay.
Mr. Quinn?
Sure. Okay, so, yes, this is it's not truly a companion ordinance. You could do one but not the other, but they are both trying to enhance public safety in the community. This one about the district is a tax and spend program where the council, so this ordinance is just a setup. And then you could, or choose to or not to, create actual districts. And if you did, they would be taxed, and the money would be spent only within that district for public safety. So there were very minor edits from last time. In section, basically this was financial intricacies that the city manager pointed out. Basically, the money for such a district would not actually go into a separate fund, but it would be separately accounted for, and it would be audited along with the annual audit. So there's not really any substantive changes, it's more of a clarification.
Okay. And so this would be more of having this as part of our toolkit.
It would be a tool in the box. And so the way it would work is that at any time the council could vote to create a district. And then if a district is created, then each year as part of the millage process, you would choose to put a millage rate on that district, which could be 0 or it could be whatever y'all deem to be appropriate. And then that money would, so the same property owners that pay that extra tax would be the ones to benefit directly from that money being reinvested in their district. And there's a whole list of things that might be done. For example, extra police presence there, or making infrastructure improvements to the, like for example, street lights for the sidewalk to make it a less welcoming place to a criminal.
Okay. Any questions from the, City
I just
Manager?
have one question. I just thought about this. Would the property owners in that district, would it be a requirement that they have a say in what those remedies are?
No.
Okay.
Only, and this gets into a tricky element of it that we'd have to kind of take on a case-by-case basis. But using my example of street lights for the sidewalk and street, they wouldn't have any say. Hypothetically, there might be something that would benefit the whole district and that infrastructure would need to be wholly or partially installed on private property. So that's where we would have to engage with them directly.
Councilwoman Bell?
Thank you. I just have a question. So I don't have an issue with districts that provide tax revenue, but can y'all inform me why it's a SSD and not a TAD?
I can, yes. Okay, I'll try to do the short version because these things can get complicated. A TAD is a tax allocation district. A TAD works by setting a baseline of how much the value of all the properties in the district is or are, and over time, if those property values go up, then the difference between what it was worth before the TAD and what it's worth now, that differential amount goes into a special account that's similar in that it has to be reinvested in that district. The main reason to do a TAD is if you can get the buy-in of DeKalb County, because then their increments would go there also. It doesn't raise any extra money, in other words, unless the county buys in. It's the same amount that they would be taxed anyway, and that differential is just stuck in that area. Also, it's more, some of the infrastructure stuff that we might want to do would be an appropriate TAD expense, but for example, extra police patrol would not. So I think the biggest advantage to this approach compared to a TAD, there's two of them. One is that it will allow us to spend money on things the TAD would not. Two is that it's extra money rather than the same amount of money. And related to number two is that the TAD doesn't do anything unless the property values appreciate. So if we're talking about a high crime area, I'm sure they do appreciate, but maybe not in a quick way that would raise money for what we're trying to do.
Go ahead, if you want, Joe.
So I get that. So I think then that goes back to what's our desired outcome for this. If the desired outcome is in fact to decrease crime, then sure, an SSD. Either one. But if the desired outcome is actually to be revenue generating but also reduce crime simultaneously, then I think also, I guess SSD could work, but the TAD could work on the offset if the goal was just to reduce crime. But it seems like we're trying to fill in gaps in our police infrastructure, because I've seen SSDs only used for brand new cities when they're trying to build out whatever that police force is. And so the general revenue pays for the salaries, to your point. But I also think that this could be, honestly, if the value appreciates, then that can also be a benefit of it being a TAD. But this all could be a CID. Even in the business district, it could be a BID. It could still have money going back into us. There are different scenarios that this could work. I think the desired outcome is what would trigger which use and what. But we can discuss it later, Steve.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? All right.
Miss
There are different scenarios, and that's right. And with that, any other public comments?
Oh, I got
Okay.
the PhD, but the husband. My wife
The
does, so
husband degree,
I get
okay.
it through marriage. I'm married into it. So I did have, so Councilwoman Bell brought up my question, in terms of using it, like a CID approach. And I think we may have discussed this at the last meeting.
We did.
Of having that as the carrot, seeing if we could get businesses on board and saying, hey, let's take this approach first, and then having this as sort of our backup. So that was a question to just make sure that it's we don't limit our funding even to the things here. There may be some options of maybe we do some pocket parks or things like that. So maybe we either add that to the public safety, the spending limitations on this, or lean into some of the other funding mechanisms for it. Same thing, concerned with this as I had with the other one on the tenant protections section, and just the enforceability of that. Again, it might not be direct, but there's nothing that would prevent a property owner from, raising the rent a couple dollars more than whatever that tax is and saying, well, it's just inflation or whatever. It still has the same effect on our constituents. So again, it kind of comes back to what are we trying to accomplish? Is this the best option for it? Is it going to have unintended consequences? And the last piece, so y'all can decide who wants to answer each of this, or this is maybe more of just a general FYI, is around the advisory committees. We kind of established them, but one of the issues we've had with committees in the past, we've talked about this at length, is not having clear definitions around how they function or how appointments happen, anything else, who's in charge of it, and there's not that level of detail here. So that's just a concern. I don't know if that's something we're planning on fleshing out later, but I start getting a little uneasy when that's not established. We've set up the mechanism to establish districts, but then in terms of the public ownership, public input piece, who's owning that? Is that going to be a staff member? Is that going to be our city manager?
Yeah. I can speak to that last one. I think the first couple are just good policy questions. What do y'all think's the right thing for the community? What I anticipated in putting the vice mayor's proposal into this ordinance was that the details would be of the committee would be created district by district at the time of creating the district. So this doesn't create any districts. At the time that y'all wanted to do that would be an opportunity to flesh out those details as well.
Okay, so you're looking at it as there may be additional language that we need to put in there for a specific case that we're dealing with in a particular area.
Right. Well, not maybe 100%.
Okay.
And that's what it says in here, that there are no districts created. This is just a framework.
Okay.
And I mean, frankly, I think this, from speaking with the mayor and vice mayor, is kind of intended to be something that property owners in a district could be referred to say, it kind of along the lines, but different, of what you were saying for the community improvement district. Like, how about y'all improve your district voluntarily so we don't have to put a tax on you? And that's, a community improvement district is like a self-taxed thing.
Yeah,
so this would be a little bit, kind of.
All business generated, I got it.
Right.
Right. So it's back to your point, the carrot versus the stick. Right.
And then in terms of the tenant protection section, I do want to make sure that got.
Yeah, I think that both, honestly, we would have an impossible time, both administratively and legally, enforcing a punishment of any kind against a landlord who raised the rent. That's just simply not a power that the city of Clarkston has.
So, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments? Public. All right. Okay. With that being said, we'll close that out, and we have the additional information regarding the sections that we discussed. And so, again, this isn't the final version, so we can take all the necessary comments, and we appreciate you. So we'll move to new business, and that is discussion 7A, and that's the discussion of a resolution to approve a proposed facilities master plan contract with Studio RNB. City manager.
Yes, ma'am. And if Mr. Edwards will come up to the mic, just in case we need to tag team this one. If that's okay, Mayor.
That's
Thank you.
absolutely.
And so, as a part of the city's budget scope, council approved and had a desire for a facilities master plan for the city. And so the administration, along with the Planning and Economic Development Office put out an RFP. And essentially we are looking to develop a facilities plan that supports the entire city government organization by providing work environments that meet the needs of all the city departments. And ultimately, we were looking for a firm that would be able to perform citywide governmental facility planning services that include conditional assessment, space and programming needs assessment, and development of a long-term facilities master plan to include recommendations for the location of a new city hall, and also to provide architectural renderings for that new city hall. And so we went through this process. We had 3 bidders. Studio R&B was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and we have provided the cost of the bid in the packet that we have presented to council. Mr. Edwards might want to add something, and I think we also have a representative from Studio R&B with us this evening.
I think that was well stated.
Oh. Yeah, as far as, and I know council is always concerned about funding, and we have provided a funding scenario within the agenda summary for this particular item. Council adopted, approved a $50,000 appropriation in the fiscal year 2026 budget. And so the lowest bid by Studio R&B came in at $84,880. Within that same category line item, which is administrative professional services, we have not seated a grants manager or procurement consultant to date, and so we were using the funding from January through May for those services to offset the cost. So there's no increase in budget. There's a 0 net increase or decrease in the budget for this item.
Okay. All right. Council, did you have any questions on this one, or did you want or we need to have the rep speak or anything? You're good. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry.
The only question I have, and I'm just trying
Go
to
ahead.
be proactive, is section 4.5 in the renderings. It says up to 3. Now, I've served on this council long enough to know that there may be a desire for more than 3 renderings, and so what is that going to look like from a cost perspective? Or should we just make it clear, based off our decision, that there will only be 3?
I think that's very
I
clear.
think we should make it very clear.
It's 3, period.
Council is 3.
You better
It
make,
was noted on today. Okay.
okay, for the minute's sake, 3. All right, got it.
Studio
Any-
R&B, 3.
3. 2.5, make it where, okay. All right. Any comment?
Or 6 half renderings, or how?
Nope, see? Nope.
It has
Okay. All right, no problems. Thank you for bringing that point up. With that being said, any comments from the public?
We did public.
Okay,
I'll
public.
just say we did provide, you all received a copy of the contract draft. We got it earlier today. You have a copy of that.
Yes.
No other points for me?
Okay, you seen this, Stephen?
Yes, we have gone back and forth and reached a agreement on the final language from a legal perspective.
Okay, that's on my checklist. All right. Thank you. With that, thank you. You know what? Is this something that we can do for consent? Consent? All right. Great. So you don't have to come next week. You're good. Thank you. And what's your name?
Oh, so my name is Samuel, everybody.
Okay.
I'm principal here at Studio R&B. I just want to say thank you for allowing us to work with you all.
Oh, come up to the mic, please. 'Cause you're gonna give a whole speech. We need to make sure you're on the record.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Everyone looks great, by the way. I'm really excited. Studio R&B is excited to be able to work with the city, work with the residents, give you something that you can be proud of, something that's going to be functional and look good as well. So really excited to work with everybody.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
All right. And did you state your name? So,
My name is Samuel.
okay.
I've had some correspondence with
Okay,
you.
all right, perfect.
Mr. Richard.
All right.
So nice to meet everybody.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is the discussion of a resolution to consider the appointment of Cynthia Hanson to
Yeah.
serve as city clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Brooke, I got a brief point of order on the two old business items. I think we had previously deferred, or we wanted to vote on them at this council, that upcoming council meeting, or go ahead and defer them to another
We-
round of discussions.
They,
I think last meeting we did a,
We did do a defer.
they have to show up on the next agenda, right, Steve?
Right, the time to defer, I mean, welcome to talk about it now, but the time to defer is at the regular meeting.
well, we had put them, I think
We
the
put
previous
on-
one, we put them on consent. just
Right,
so
on a consent to defer.
To defer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just
think-
bringing that up because I,
Well, I think, I mean, it's not for me to say, but since it's the vice mayor's initiative and she
she's
wasn't
not
able to
here.
be here, I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah, so let's
keep it on regular.
Consent to defer.
defer it.
Okay, so we would consent to
Because I
defer.
think, yeah, consent to defer, because you
Defer
also
with
have to do
consents.
some more changes to
Right.
it, right? So-
And I think we want to have a whole, another conversation, another work session.
Mhm.
That's fine.
So we're consenting to defer
For till,
old business A and B.
yeah,
Is that-
A and
okay.
B.
Need a thumbs up?
Thumbs up for everybody? Thumbs up to defer? So just so, for clarity's sake, we deferred this item from last month to this month. We had some additional comments and research to be handled by staff and legal. So from a consent agenda, we will defer this again to the May work session, June council meeting. So Miss Cindy, you got that? Okay, so since you got that, we're gonna talk about you. And now with that, city manager.
Yes, ma'am. So we are very delighted, ecstatic to present to council consideration of a resolution to appoint Miss Cynthia Hanson as the city clerk of the city of Clarkston, Georgia, effective May 16th, 2026.
Okay, is there any discussion other than putting this on consent? Consent? Consent, public, can we do consent? All right. You have anything you want to say, Miss Cindy?
I've just really enjoyed the last 2 months that I've worked here as your interim. I am honored to come on permanently as your city clerk. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we'll move on to C, which is a discussion for consideration, the SS4A Safety Action Plan, SAP, project options for bipartisan infrastructure law, BIL, implementation grant funding. And I'll defer to the city manager on that one as well.
Yes, ma'am, and I will hand it over to city engineer Larry Kaiser.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. So you have a lot of pretty pictures in front of you again, and we'll try to get through these real quick as best I can. So where we are with the safety action plan is that we have a number of options that are available to city council and the mayor for pursuing federal funding for the last round of BIL funding through the bipartisan infrastructure law grant program. And so the date that this last round of funding under the Biden administration, the last round of funding normally would be the June-July time period for the application. They moved it up 2 months to May 26, which causes us to really scramble, all of us. And so what I did was put together a summary of two options available to council to pursue funding and submit the application, the city manager submit the application by that deadline of May 26th. The first option is, I think we discussed at length, which is the engineering costs for the entire North Indian Creek Montreal Road corridor. The engineering costs under option one is what council said let's pursue. Option one, construction costs is right around 38 million in current dollars. By the time that this project is built, we hope is built, by the time you look at that in 2034, 2033, 2035, that cost is going to be right around $54 to $55 million of construction cost. So based upon about a 20% more or less design cost to construction, the design cost would be right around $14.5 million. That design cost would also include all environmental permitting and hiring a right-of-way agent to acquire right-of-way. The cost that I mentioned to you, $54 million, the right-of-way is not included in that, nor is this dollar amount of $14.5 million that is available for us to pursue for engineering costs. So right-of-way is a future issue. Can't address it now. Too far out in the future for that. So where we are is a total cost of about $14.5 million, plus or minus $1 million. So we would ask for 14.5. The feds would pay 11.5 of that, or 80%. The local match would be about $2.9 million. And if we're able to receive cooperation from the county would pay 50%, the city would pay 50%, and then we would pursue the application by the deadline with those thoughts in mind, with letters from the county, with us taking the lead on the grant application. So that's where we are. We have a meeting set up. Mayor and city manager, they will get that set up with the CEO on Friday. And so we're happy that was able to be pulled off in such a short period of time. We'll be meeting with the CEO and her staff and talk about what we're asking the county to participate in. The project is a little bit longer. The lengthwise, it's about 1,000 or so feet greater in Clarkston than it is in the county. But I'm not going to quibble about that. It's a matter of whether the county would be willing to agree to their share at this point in time with a letter of commitment. It's not a large dollar amount for the county. I will say that. It is for the city, but it is not for the county. So we would hope that the CEO would understand that and make some promises to you, Mayor, to make that happen. So that is one option. That one option is, because it's a fair amount. And so when you think about the dollar amount for design services, $14.5 million for design and construction plan development. It's a lot of money, but there's a lot out there. It's 3 miles in length, and there's a lot of impacts and a lot that we're talking about under option one. So it seemed like a lot. It is a lot, but not for that construction dollar amount. And we cannot phase the project. That has been asked of us several times by the citizens, even by the county. And Patrice Keeter is their department head now. He's been in the county for 30 years. And she asked that question a number of times. And she knows that that's not possible. It just doesn't make any sense to have it as a phased project. And so we're going to ask for everything. So under the possibility that the county would say no, all right, I prepared option two. Option two is a list of 5 projects. And so what you have here in front of you, the big old map right here in front of you, this one right here, that was generated from what we call the top 40 list. The top 40 list is this single sheet of paper, right? So that top 40 list is something that we received input in from the steering committee. Obviously, my input with quite a few of the projects that I knew of concerns about over the years. And so there's a lot of small projects or project segments that could require some safety enhancements. But the top 5 is this pretty picture here. The top 5 are exactly that, and that is the most number of accidents, the greater volume of vehicles passing through there, or great amount of pedestrian activity, which is really what this is all about, right? It's about cars, but it's also about pedestrian safety. And so what I did was, under option 2, which is the city preparing their own grant application with nobody participating other than us, and I gave council the opportunity to look at all 5 projects with a short description of each and a cost estimate associated with that. So let me just go over the first one, and I'll go through these real quick, but you need to maybe see the big picture here. Project 1 is something that we have known about, that I have known about for years. I'm sorry.
So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Hold up which document or whatever you're talking about right now. I want to make sure. Okay.
2
And it says
pages.
Exhibit B on the front of
Exhibit
it.
B, correct.
Okay, I want
Yes,
to make sure we're
correct.
all on the same page.
And Exhibit B comes from Exhibit A. Exhibit A has these 5 projects on them, top 5. So top 5. So this is generated from this.
Okay.
And I picked the top 5 because that's exactly what they are, the top 5, in terms of accidents and steering committee input and my input and all of that. So we're looking at the top 5 right now, okay, Exhibit B. So Project 1 on Exhibit B is that picture on the left. See that picture on the left with those little yellow circles? So that's something that we have known about, I have known about, and Marcus has over the years, where we have complaints from those using the path trail from North Decatur all the way to the city limits. Whether it's on the path trail or off the path trail, it wouldn't matter. Where the folks using it in the evening hours were concerned about their safety. So I added that as part of the top 40 and thought that was most probably one of the more critical ones from a pedestrian safety standpoint. Not just vehicle safety, but also health safety of those walking the trail. And so you can see the number we're talking about. We're talking about, and I broke out the estimates, about 185 pedestrian poles at about 65 to 70 foot spacings. And the poles would be just like what we have on East Ponce de Leon right now. Same kind of poles. Provide enough illumination for pedestrian safety. And there's 185 of them, quite a few of them, at about $8,000 a pop, plus electrical costs, et cetera, et cetera. And so you see what I have is $1.8 million for construction. We would be asking $1.4 under the bipartisan infrastructure law, and you can see the breakdown of local cost. Engineering, the 20% match on construction. The total cost of the city would be about $700,000. Okay, and that's today dollars. Most probably it wouldn't go much because I added some contingency to that. That's project number 1. Now, we can go after all of these projects or one project. It doesn't matter. I just wanted this council to have an option of what's available. Project 2 is an all-time favorite that has been a bearer of a lot of people's bane for many years, and that is Church Street at Market. You have the same situation at Church Street and Market as you do at Mill Avenue at Church and in East Ponce de Leon, right? Cars are traveling back and forth, although at East Ponce and Church, East Ponce and Market, you have a traffic signal on one side, but it's the Church Street side that has no traffic signal. It's always dangerous there. People that are new to the city always never know when to stop, when to go, when to stop, when to go. It's just a problem. And so I estimated the cost for that, $1.3 million. $1 million from the feds and the rest of it would be from the city. So engineering and the 20% local match on the federal money would be about $400,000 for project number 2. We could pursue. Project 3 is pedestrian improvements at Hill Street in East Ponce, and that is really a sidewalk. Nothing more than that. It's a trail, actually. But it's something that the steering committee has indicated a couple of times to us that there's a need for a wide path through there. I never felt that personally. I never really saw anybody walk on Hill Street, West Hill Street, but there could be some walkers there. But that was project number 3. You see the cost for that, about $220,000. Project number 4 is the Bell at Jolly, a mini roundabout at that location.
I think where are the numbers?
Number 4, they're all in this.
But where, you're saying.
Yeah, they're all in this. They're all on the list.
I see the 38 million,
Yes.
but I don't see
No.
when you're
So
talking on this.
Exhibit B, you have the lights, you have the description at the top, Hill Street. Then you have right below that, you have the Bell at Jolly. Right? And then on the second page, you have,
Costs.
Yeah, the cost numbers.
the cost numbers is on,
Okay.
it's on my work session agenda. It should be. Yeah,
So-
it should be. It's part of my work session agenda.
What I was just trying to make sure you understood,
Yeah.
as you were mentioning the cost, you have it on Exhibit XC here. But when we're looking at this, we didn't see it as far as the
Yeah,
document.
It's not Exhibit C, Exhibit B. And the options are on my work session agenda package.
Do we have,
Okay, I don't know.
I don't think. So I'm just letting you know, it's okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
okay.
While you're seeing us trying to find a number.
Okay.
It wasn't on the
All
sheet
right.
where you had
No, it wasn't on the
pre-
sheet, it was on my work
Right,
session
okay.
agenda.
So I just want to make sure we're in sync.
Okay,
So
okay.
we all know.
Okay.
You have it in your hand as you're going
All
through
right.
this. We're looking at the actual plans.
All right.
And then we're all on sync. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor Burks? may I?
Yes.
It appears that the summary sheet did not upload. It is in the system. I'll make sure that that gets to y'all in the packet for the council meeting.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so Project 3 is defined on here as the Hill Street sidewalk at the very top on the first page, on the first sheet. At the very top, you see Hill Street. And right below that, you see DeBell Street.
Right.
Okay? So the DeBell at Jolly is the mini roundabout. There is a really bad sight distance problem on DeBell, looking to the left. It's been that way a long time. And there's a lot of walkers through there, a lot of cars speeding through there. And so we looked at a mini roundabout there, a small one. So the cost for that would be right around $265,000. And then the last project on this list is Rocket Road from 78 to East Ponce. And again, it's on this list, second page. At the very top, it says Rocket, 78 to East Ponce. So that includes a number of refuge islands in the middle of that center turn lane. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons, the yellow beacon flashing lights, all that cost would be about $360,000. So when it's all said and done, you have 5 options to pick from in the event that Friday does not turn out well. And so that's something I think you need, we'll know by Friday. Better have a good feel about Friday. If not, we can wait a few more days, but we really need to know by Friday. And so that's where we are, and we'll make a decision on Tuesday, council can, about how to proceed.
Okay. And the only other one that I don't see that has come up as a concern is the Market Indian Creek, where there were some concerns as from where it used to be Thrift Town and being able to see. That was a
It's
issue.
it's on, 1 minute, it's on my, give me 1 minute. It's on this 8.5 by 11 sheet,
Okay.
okay?
It's on the sheet.
It's on the sheet, but it's not a high priority,
Right.
no.
Okay.
And remember, that's going to be resolved eventually with the corrections to the corridor.
Okay. Okay. Questions from the council? So this is the item that after we have the meeting Friday, we can kind of go from there on Tuesday. Okay. All right. So question, Councilman Moore.
Yeah, on the Hill Street project, just want to mention that there's a word on here that I think is kind of poison around the city, where it says chicanes.
Oh. Yeah, I know. I did not correct it. I kept it there.
No more Cricket Street.
Well, chicanes on that road would be less of an issue than on a residential street.
Okay,
That's why I kept it there.
all right. Okay, they're
They're rounded.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Chicanese, okay. All right, thank you. So we'll talk about this one. We'll just keep this as is on the agenda for next week. And we'll move on to discussion regarding the GDOT LRA 26 funding allocation, city manager.
I will defer this one to Larry Kaiser as well.
Okay. So a reminder of what council did last year with LMIG 26, fiscal year 26. We rolled those funds over into fiscal year 27. That project cost for the projects identified in the fiscal year 26 and the fiscal year 27, that total cost of all those projects is right around $663,000. And that was included in our retreat conversation about reallocation of SPOS funds, et cetera. We received notice, as all governments did in Georgia, about the additional $134,000 from GDOT with the local road assistance program again. Again, I would recommend, and this is what this is all about, to take those LRA funds and move it into next year.
Okay.
And so we have a little bit less of a impact to the SPOS reallocation that we talked about just recently. So that's what I'm asking for. And just a reminder, the one project that we submitted last year for LMIG, again, rolled over to next year, is the resurfacing, milling, resurfacing, and striping of North Indian Creek from East Ponds all the way up to the city limits, Tucker. And the reason we have to do that is not because we're going to redo it years from now if that road's ever widened, because we will. Some of that existing pavement will be reused. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is that we have to take care of that problem now.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take care of that problem now because the road is in very, very, very poor condition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rapidly accelerating in terms of issues. And I can see it. I've seen it the last 2 years. So all the funding would be applied to that road section only next year.
Okay.
That's it. So what I need is next week is council approval to take the LRA funds and move it into the LMIG rollover next year so that I can get the paperwork to you and get it submitted by June 15th.
Okay. So any questions from the council? Are you fine with it? And that we put the appropriate language in this to say that we're moving the funding to 2027?
Yes,
Or-
ma'am.
Okay, okay. Go ahead. Yes, so we're okay with this as being consent moving forward, but to make sure in terms of how we present this to have the appropriate language to say that we approve to move the funds to 2027.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mr. Quinn, do you have the resolution for that? Are you okay?
Do we need a resolution?
We don't need a resolution, so if you're fine because we haven't done it before with the resolution, that's, right, okay. It's just a matter of, because we're not necessarily, the dollar amount is our dollar amount, we're just moving the funds over. Right, okay. All right.
So we don't need a document that shows that it's going to be pushed to 2027.
There's no local match, 100%
Right.
funded.
Yeah.
So it's nothing from us, it's just that we're saying the money that they're going to allocate, we'll move it over, we'll wait till you receive the funds the next year.
Oh, but you said they didn't need to say 2027 on it. What needs to say that?
The item.
The item, the agenda
on the
item.
agenda.
For the
Oh,
agenda.
I thought it was another document.
No, it's just the agenda item, so that if anybody saw it in the future, they would know what we did with it. Okay, we're good with that. Thank you, public, no public, okay.
We'll move on to E, which is a discussion of a proclamation naming May 17th to the 23rd, 2026, National Public Works Week. Yeah, I did. I sure did. Thank you for the follow-up. Oh, she just on that degree thing. Good. I know. So go ahead, City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. So of course, National Public Works Week will be May 17th through the 23rd. And we do have some plans for our public works team that week, and we'll be sending that information out to council. But we want to get on board with the rest of the public works departments nationally and make sure to proclaim this week in the city of Clarkston.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you not only to all of our staff for what you continuously do, but we want to make sure that we recognize our wonderful public works who's always out and about. So thank you for that. Any comments from the council? No? Public? Consent? Perfect. Okay. Item F, which is the discussion of proclamation establishing May 5th. Should that be May 4th through the 8th as?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's make that change. May 4th through the 8th, 2026 as Economic Development Week. Madam City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. I'll defer to Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager. Yes, so May 4th through 8th is designated as International Economic Development Week. So we want to partake in that, celebrate our local businesses, and connect with our citizens on what our DDA and what our economic development staff are doing. So we proposed this resolution in front of you, and we also released our first flyer for some events that are going to be happening next week. So on Monday, May 4th, we're going to do a Shop Local campaign where we're going to encourage people to shop at Clarkston businesses and dine locally throughout the day. On Tuesday, May 5th, we're going to have a Business Appreciation Day where city representatives will visit local businesses and thank them for their service to the city. And then on Friday, May 8th, we'll have a Planning and Economic Development Social hosted at the Women's Club. So we'll invite business owners and residents to come mingle and meet with staff.
Okay. Sounds good. Are we going to do, as part of that, kind of like a social media campaign to highlight? Okay, I just want to make sure that
Yeah,
we
Jacob
include.
will be working on that.
Okay, all right. And our communications.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay. With that, Cindy, we're good? Public? Consent? All right. Thank you. And we'll make that change instead of just saying the 5th, Miss Cindy. Okay. And then G, which is to discuss the renewal of the GERMA property and liability coverage for the policy period 5/1/2026 to 4/30/2026 through the GMA property and liability self-insurance program funded through the general fund budget. City Manager.
Yes, ma'am. So we did receive renewal terms for our property and liabilities coverage for property and assets for the city. Well, property asset and operational functions. That invoice amount for the proposal was $217,662, but we do have a renewal credit in the amount of the full total was $226,065, and we have a renewal credit of $8,403, which makes the premium $217,662. And if you give me just a minute, I will find my agenda summary. Thank you, so sweet. That's why y'all appointed her. Okay, and so there is a little bit of a little bit of a difference in what was budgeted in GARMA insurance premium for the police department and what has come in as an actual. That amount is $44,951. Overall premium deficit is $27,012, but we wanted to stay specific to the police department to keep our budget appropriations in line with each department. And so we are presenting that $44,951 will be paid for by credits that we have realized in police salaries from vacant positions through January and February of this year. So we're able to meet the premium amount within that department based on those savings. Additionally, the policy is set to renew May 1st. So we are asking for council consent for us to go ahead and sign off on the premium documents and the policy documents, and for council to ratify the decision at the next meeting.
Okay, so with that being said, any questions from the council? Yes.
I think I sent this in an email too, but just wanted to follow up on the contract scheduling. Is there a way to get the contract structured so that it just falls in line with our votes?
Right.
Or is that, I mean, if it's not, it's a minor issue, but.
All of the city's premium dates start May 1, but what we will ask GARMA to do is to provide the quote earlier. We typically receive it around May 1. I don't know if that means getting the application documents, the renewal documents back from them for us to fill out and sending them in earlier, but we'll definitely work on that timeline.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So anything from the public? With that being said, we have a consent to move forward, so we can go ahead and consign this, and then at the next council meeting, we will ratify it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else legally? We good?
Yes, all good.
Okay, all right. Move forward with that. And then item H, I'm going to defer to the city manager, discussion of Beverly Burke's resignation from Downtown Development Authority.
Yes, ma'am. So our verified mayor, Beverly Burks, has sent notice of her resignation from the Downtown Development Authority effective April 14th. And so, according to the requirements for resignation, the council has to accept the resignation, and then later on in the agenda, council will consider their appointment for the position. Next item.
Next item.
Right now, we need to consent to moving forward with accepting the resignation.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Consent agenda.
Oh, you
You
guys
got something to add?
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So, and then thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate all of that. So we can go ahead and move forward with that one. So thank you all, Jordan. I'm glad to see we got new people on. So good. With that, we'll move on. That's consent. Nothing from the public. Consent. Move on to I, which is a discussion on council consideration of an appointment to fill a vacant position on the DDA. And city manager.
Yes, ma'am. I'll defer to planning director on this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager. On this one, so previously council had decided to put a member of council on the DDA. However, that is not required. So the city manager and myself, we wanted to bring this question back up before you all. Do we want to appoint another council member, or do we want to put an ad out trying to recruit a citizen or a business owner here in the city?
Okay.
And this is for a term that would expire December 31st of 2026. So it would only be about a 7-month term, but be up for renewal at that time as well.
Yes.
I'd like to nominate.
Well,
I'd like
first
to
we got to do a consideration. Do we want to keep it with a council member, or do we want to open it up to a business or a resident? Did you have? Oh,
Mr. Moore has something.
yes.
I think it's important that the DDA maintain a good relationship with the council, and having a council member on there would be a strategic good choice.
Okay. So, council member, you okay with a council member? Yes. Okay. Council member.
Okay, now, all right, who on the council doing,
I had something to add.
Yes.
So, under the state law regarding the DDA directors, is what the members are called, if the city takes the option to appoint an elected official as a director, which you just said you want to do, the term of office is equal to the elected office. So it would not end
In the end of this year.
right. It would go depending on whether the person chosen was just elected or only has approximately 2 years left. That's what the term would be.
Okay. I know that that's where I got 'em. So yes, so with that being said, who wants to do this wonderful job?
I do.
Okay, we got one. Anybody?
I do. So I do.
Okay, so we got two. All right, so we got Councilman Moore and Councilwoman Bell. Okay, so we can make anybody else want to put their hat in the pot. Okay. All right, with that, okay, so we have two people, and so we can make sure in terms of that vote, we can do that at the council meeting. Okay. And if you don't mind, if you haven't already, just fill out the application so we can all have that as part of the process. Okay. All right. With that being said, do we have everything covered in terms of consent items? Do you have any questions, Ms. New Clerk? Okay. All right. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and second that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all, and make sure you vote. Vote at the Clarkston Library.